Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Bengal Tiger Podcast. I'm Matthew Bruni, and Shay Dixon could not join me today. Power outage, recruiting news, you name it. He threw all the excuses at me today to not come and do this Mailbag podcast. But I said I had to do it for y'all, for the subscribers that sent in their questions. I said we're going to get a Mailbag podcast out. I don't care if LSU has lost 3 games in a row. We got to get a Mailbag pod out. So I'm just going to rip through, answer these questions, and if you enjoy it, leave a like. If not, then I don't really care. So yeah, subscribe to the Bengal Tiger On3 if you haven't already. Tons of stuff up. I mean, I think I'm covering 7 games in 8 days, so all of the insight and interaction on the message boards for all these games, football, basketball, women's basketball, men's basketball, all the good stuff. So thank you to everyone who sent in questions. We'll get right into it. Michael DeBust Scott, formerly of Michael Gary Scott, has Kelly figured out that we need to attack the portal hard next year to field a competitive team? Yeah, this is an interesting one because I think Brian Kelly in his press conference gave the response that most would expect, right? He said, we're going to stick with what we do. We want to develop. We want to only rely on the portal, to fill needs, basically, right? They want to continue to recruit well, which they have, right? The 2025 class is phenomenal. And Shay and I discussed this on the post-game podcast after Florida, of the situation that this team and this program is in. And I just think, and Shay and I agreed on this, it's not necessarily the quantity that is the problem. Right now, it is the quality that is the problem. You look at this past transfer portal class, and it's AJ Swan, Xavier Thomas, CJ Daniels, Gio Paez, JVR Suggs, Austin Osbury, Jair Brown, Jordan Gilbert, and Blake Oceandorf, if you count him as well. That's not good enough. That's not good enough. CJ Daniels, I like. He's clearly the best player of this group. So cool. Exclude him. It's not good enough. I love Xavier as a return man, not as a receiver. Paez is fine as a stopgap player. He's not at the level where you need SEC defense tackles to be. Same with Suggs. Gilbert has clearly shown his limitations. Jair Brown can't get on the field. So you have this group, and in quantity, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with you taking 8 to 10, but the quality has to be significantly better. And I think there was a hope that they could kind of just get through this year and put all of the money and all of the resources into this 2025 class. And so you don't have to spend on the portal. But at the end of the day, if you're going to be competitive at the top end of the SEC and the top end of the country, really, I think you have to get quality from the transfer portal every year. I included in my story, I think it was On3 ranks, all of the transfers, rates them, ranks them, whatever. And I believe CJ Daniels is the only 4-star transfer portal player that LSU got this year. Like, that can't happen. Oregon got 3 of the top 10, right? Like Gabriel and the receivers, Gabriel, receiver, and corner. Like, they got 3 like 5-star dudes. Ohio State, Caleb Downs, Quinshon Judkins. Like, you have to go get guys again, because the standard at LSU is to win and compete for championships. You have to do that in the portal, whether you like it or not. I love freshman recruiting. I think this 2025 class is going to be phenomenal, but you have to fill gaps, not just with a Gio Paez, not just with a Jordan Gilbert. You got to go get game changers at these positions. Because if not, you're in the position where you are right now, where at defensive tackle, we're talking about Ahmad Brose and Don McKinley getting a ton of snaps. And Paez is good, but Paris Shand is having to get snaps, so on and so forth. Like, that's just where you need like a Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Like, he has been an absolute game changer for them, and they have one of the best fronts in the country with him, and the rest of the players that we've talked about before. So I just think there needs to be an uptick in quality rather than quantity. Again, 8 to 10, I'm cool with, but if you go get a receiver, I'm cool with Daniels. CJ Daniels is a good player. I have no problem with that. But if Texas got Isaiah Bond, right? Like, that's the type of player. Like, Oregon gets Evan Stewart. It's like, those are the type of players you have to get. And that's just one position. I'm not singling out receiver, but like on the offensive line this year, it's going to be a big thing. I think we talk about it as well. Can you go get guys? Can you go get stars? Can you go get guys that are gonna start immediately and not have major question marks? Same thing in the back end at corner. Like, you can't keep backfilling with a J.K. Johnson and a Jair Brown and so on. Like, you got to go get guys. So, I think Brian Kelly has realized that, and I think once they get the 2025 class in, I hope they can dedicate more resources, more time, more money to getting a um, capable transfer portal class that can compete with top end of the SEC. Because right now, it's very clear to me that this transfer portal class was not good enough in any regards. I would argue, and I think I'd be right, the freshman class was more impactful than the transfer class, and that's pretty telling about where this program and where this team is at right now, because it's hard to win games when you have freshmen at, like I said, D tackle, running back, corner with PJ Woodland at times. I mean, it's very hit or miss across the board. So I think I spent long enough on that question, but yeah, his second question is, who will our OC be in 2025? It's going to be Joe Sloan. Um, I think the play calling maybe changed up. I think they'll get some analysts potentially, but Joe Sloan's going to be your offensive coordinator. I mean, he's got Bryce Underwood signed, and I think that's more than enough reason to have him as your offensive coordinator. But I also think he's going to learn from this. I mean, he is a young guy. He's a young offensive coordinator, and Brian Kelly has talked about being more hands-on. I mean, I put this on Brian Kelly honestly more than I do Joe Sloan in terms of the play calling and the build of this offense. You have a first-year coordinator here at this level for Joe Sloan, who I think is learning on the job, which is it's what it looks like. So I think Brian Kelly deserves just as much, if not more, criticism for what they've done on offense than Joe Sloan to this point. But it will be Joe Sloan in 2025. I believe that. All right, next, Rosie Finch boys. Most important positions to be targeted in the portal. Kind of like I talked about. I mean, corner. Maybe so. The corner situation is interesting because you do have DJ Pickett and you have Kate Phillips and all these corners coming in as freshmen that could potentially start. I would still like to see them go get one maybe corner. But safety. I'm sorry. Yeah, safety should have been the first name out of my mouth. Safety is by far need number one. Corner, I think, is worth the discussion. Linebacker might be in the discussion because even if Perkins comes back, you lose Greg Penn. I think you might need some depth. There's some options there. I think they're fine on the defensive line. Like Womack, Relaford, McKinley, Bro. Like, that's young, but it has talent. So maybe, I think they maybe find there. Maybe they need to go get one or two. Not sure, but offensive line, certainly. I think you would go get at least two players that can compete immediately, if not start immediately on this offensive line. I just don't think the depth is anywhere near where it needs to be, as evidence from Paul Mabenga coming in and not being able to play at all. And then, yeah, I think we see if Mason Taylor leaves, like, do they go get a tight end? I wouldn't be shocked at that at all. Receiver, yeah, sign me up. If Lacey leaves, um, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Even if Daniels and Hilton are back and Anderson's back, I still wouldn't be surprised at all if they wouldn't try to go get a top, just one receiver, just to really, like I said, like an Isaiah Bond, like an Evan Stewart. Like, can you compete in that echelon of players in the portal consistently at receiver? I would like to see that. But that'd really be it, I think. I know I just named almost every position on the team, but yeah, that's kind of where this team's at. They are lacking talent in some key areas for sure. All right. His second question: any potential day one starters in the incoming recruiting class? I mean, the cornerbacks, which we've talked about, Kate Phillips, DJ Pickett, certainly could come in and compete with an Ashton Stamps, with a PJ Woodland from day one. That would not shock me at all. Bryce Underwood, clearly, we'll see what Nussmeier's decision is, but I think Nussmeier, I think Underwood is. I mean, he's incredible. So that's not a hot take of any sort. I don't know if like a Carius Kern can do it. Interior offensive lineman. We'll see about the defensive line, but that's pretty much the top guys in the class can definitely come in and compete right away. So, all right, next, Tiger King 53. Brian Kelly has mentioned only doing one evaluation of his players and coaches, which occurs at the end of the year. Do you think there would be more benefit adding a midseason and coaching and player evaluation? Most successful organizations do more than one performance evaluation each year. I think they also do one during the bye week, right? Or one of the 2 bye weeks is their self-scout, and they self-scout, I think, from both bye weeks, but, I think self-scouting is something that all teams do. Now, I think what he's talking about is a bigger picture evaluation of the team and the program that can only be done in the offseason. I don't see what good it would do to do a big picture outlook of your program in week 7, when you're about to play Auburn at home or something like that. I'm not sure exactly what that consists of. I think self-evaluation, self-scouting goes on every single week. I think they watch the film and I think they understand where they lack, I think they understand what they need to do, but in terms of a big picture one, like firing coaches, like cutting players, like where they need to add players, all that stuff, I don't think that needs to go on in, a bye week in week 7 before you play Alabama or, before you play anybody. So, I don't have a problem with it. I think you need to stay focused on one game at a time, one team at a time. I'm not sure exactly what it would do to have a big picture evaluation done of your entire program in the middle of the season because I do think that's what he's talking about. He's not saying they don't self scout. He's not saying they don't track tendencies. He's not saying that they don't know where they need to improve on. He's saying, I think, from a big picture standpoint, we do those at the end of the year in terms of firing and hiring coaches and whatnot. And I mean, heck, he started to call more plays. He had a play sheet in his hand. So I think from a self scouting standpoint, I think they're fine. I think it's more so of a big picture evaluation that he's referring to. Appreciate the question. Go HU. So go Houston, I guess. Give me 3 reasons why we should not expect the same kind of season next year. Wow, that's a sad question. Sorry, I'm getting it up. 3 reasons why we should not expect the same kind of season next year. For one, if Nussmeier comes back, I feel tremendous about the quarterback position. We've seen the jumps that players can make from year 1 to year 2, and honestly, I think Nussmeier has shown more than enough flashes to fall into that category, considering where Joe Burrow was, where Jayden Daniels was in their first year starting at LSU. I think Nussmeier is on par, if not honestly ahead of where they were, and so you give me him in a system where he's more comfortable, and honestly, if they can repair the offensive line in any capacity, I feel even better. So I'll start with Nuss as like one reason if they can get him back as being a significant reason because I think if he comes back, he is one of the favorites for Heisman. Like I think he is a preseason All American probably. Like he is going to be one of those players. Um, Two, I think Blake Baker is just scratching the surface of what he wants to do and what he can do with this defense. I'm not sure he has the personnel that can reach where he wants to go at this moment, but give him an offseason. Again, let him get some portal players in, let him get these young guys in and develop. I think Blake Baker's defense is going to take a step forward in year 2. Even if it's not a huge step, I still think they can be better than what they are right now. I think they can be more consistent, and I still believe in the coaching of this defense from top to bottom. So I think they can make some changes there or make some improvements there. And 3, let's see, where do I go with 3? I mean, the secondary can't be worse, I don't think, bluntly, to put it that way. I think we've seen the past 2 years now, you have 2 different coaching staffs, and none of them have been able to get anything out of the safety position. I think you need to have an overhaul there. I think in the safety spot, LSU will be better just off of virtue of not having to start like a Jordan Gilbert maybe or a Major Burns or a Sage Ryan. I just think there's been too much left on the bone at the safety spot. So I'm hopeful that they're going to be better there as well. And there's going to be a ton of off-season stuff that before we even get to evaluating next year, I'm really not worried about this team falling off a cliff and program falling off a cliff when it comes to the big picture. All right, next, Germans. This year is the least amount of wide receiver talent I can remember on an LSU team. Convinced me that next year's room won't be worse. If we assume only Kyron Lacey leaves, which I don't know, maybe CJ Daniels leaves, but I mean, if we assume only Kyron Lacey leaves, which maybe he stays, I don't know. Or no, I'm sorry, he's in his 5th year. Anyways. Yeah, no, Kyron Lacey's gone. Hilton, Daniels, I think Anderson, obviously. I think getting Kyle Parker back would be massive. Again, we don't know what the portal is going to do, whether that is with Parker or one of the young guys or Sampson or whatnot. But in theory, again, because we're just guessing at this point, November 20th, getting Kyle Parker back would be huge. I think he's going to be a good player. CJ Daniels, Chris Hilton development, Aaron Anderson back. That's a good group. And then, like I said, you go and get from the portal one stud receiver. Like that's where I'm at. And then you add in a Kylan Billio, you add in a Jelani Watkins. We'll see what Derek Meadows can do in that capacity. Xavier Thomas is back. So I think there is a hope of natural development, but then at the same time, I do think they need to go get somebody from the portal to help supplement the top end of their wide receiver core. Because I agree, to this point, it has been a very underwhelming group. I've said it before, they're definitely not a top 4 wide receiving core. I think they're somewhere in that 5 to 8 range at there's a lot of teams. I've had this discussion on the message board, so if you want to go check it out over there, I've debated and talked about it, but like that's not good enough. LSU should not be having 5 to 8, wide receiver core in the SEC year in year out. Like there's a higher standard at LSU than that. Okay, Frank Reynolds, if Underwood were to flip, are we firing Brian Kelly into the sun? Yeah. I mean, that's what a lot of this hinges on, right? For Joe Sloan and Brian Kelly. I mean, Underwood's not going to flip, but if it did happen, it would be alarming to say the least. Next, J87. Cole Kublik mentioned on his post-game tweets that he felt LSU did some good things offensively in the run game against Florida, but then immediately went away from it. Did you see that in your review of the game? Yes. Yes. I think Brian Kelly also mentioned it after the game in terms of them not sticking to those, whether it was the outside runs. And honestly, the only ones that had success in that game were the tackles. So you feature them, I think, more so, and especially on the right side of the offensive line. The left side was any run to the left side was liable to get blown up. But on the right side, I think they especially had some success once Miles Frazier came back in the game. So I do think they went away from that a little bit too early. But at the end of the day, they had enough success on the ground, I think, to kind of elevate the offense where it needed to be. They just didn't execute anywhere else. Pass protection, passing, receiving, they average, I think, 4.6 yards per carry once you took away the sacks, which I'm cool with. Again, it's not a great number, but it's good enough. So I do think there is something schematically that they need to learn from and they need to take from that game. What must Blake Baker do to slow down Diego Pavia this weekend? Blake Baker, I'm not sure. Again, the coaching thing, the scheming thing, I don't know how much of it I really pin on him. I think there is a problem that this team has with playing assignment football. If you just watch film, if you watch other people break down the film, even like there are situations where people are getting out of their gaps. There's plays where people are unable to fill those gaps. Like they're just I'm not sure that there is the personnel and the coaching that has already gone on to elevate this team. And honestly, I have major concerns about them slowing down Pavia in this Vanderbilt offense because to stop this offense, I think you have to be incredibly disciplined, which Alabama was not in their game. And I think LSU to this point has not been disciplined on defense, and I don't think they have the tackling in the back end to save them. So I wouldn't be surprised at all if Vanderbilt had success on offense against them. All right. Next NFLU. Oh no, we'll talk about that another time. I'm not answering it. Go Bucks. What do you think? What do you guys think of the yellow jerseys? I wish we would wear traditional whites every game. This is people really upset. People are really upset that they're wearing a yellow jersey for the first time in, what was it, 25 years, something like that. Personally, I love them. Personally, I think they are just like standalone without seeing the entire, concept of it being white, gold, white. Like just the jerseys themselves. If I was buying an LSU jersey, that would be the jersey I would want. Like that's how clean it looks to me. I can't you can argue tradition, you can argue whatever you want. I think those are extremely clean uniforms. So it's not like they're selling out and putting on like ugly stuff. It's not like they're selling out and going like all gold highlighter stuff. Like they're doing it right. I think if you want to argue about tradition, sure. I personally like do I think LSU's, traditional whites, with the yellow and the helmet and all that stuff, like do I think that is like a staple in college football the way like a Notre Dame is or like a Alabama or Penn State is or a USC or something like that? I don't really. So when I think of LSU, I think of gold, I think of purple, I think of white as being their three main colors. And so you have three colors. Some of these schools don't have three colors. Penn State has two. Alabama has two. Like some of these schools just don't have three colors. Notre Dame has the gold and the blue, and then they throw in the green sometimes, and whatnot. I just don't have a problem with it. If people want to get upset about jerseys, cool. You can get upset about jerseys. I won't. I think they're clean as long as they look good. Then I'm happy. If you want to argue about tradition, cool. Argue about tradition. I'm not the one arguing here. Ultimately, LSU's not losing games because they are not wearing the same jerseys 12 times this year. They're losing games because they're not playing well and they're not good enough. So sure, have fun. Wear a jersey, sell some merch. I mean, I'm sure kids love it. I think what was it? DJ Pickett posted on his story and said sheesh, like he liked it. So I don't know. Have fun. It's college football. If you win in them, people are gonna say bring them back. If not, they're gonna say burn them forever. That's just how fandom works. So I don't have a problem with that. Hokomojo, did LSU make the right hire? Hindsight in 2021. Yeah, yeah. I'm still gonna give them the benefit of the doubt for a couple years. I mean, they got the 2025 class in here, and I think in hindsight, I think getting that 2025 class here, and then we'll see what they do in the portal. But I still think LSU is certainly capable of building a championship contender under Brian Kelly. I don't think that is far fetched at all. I think the other part is of this, which I have not researched, is like who else they could have brought in 2021. You know, I don't know if y'all wanted Billy Napier, but y'all could have. They can go get him, I guess. But yeah, I definitely did not. I don't look back on this with hindsight in any capacity in year 3 saying they should have done something else. I think LSU is still in a position to have a good outlook moving forward. So I don't know. I guess you could ask me that next year, and I could say yes or no more definitively. But we're at the end of year 3, and we knew this team wasn't winning a championship. Now, again, I think they should have beaten USC, and they arguably should have been in the mix a little bit more. They should be playing better for sure, but it's not shocking that they're in the position that they're in right now. Okay, of all the position coaches, which guys changed your opinion on him positively this season, and what guy has been more negative? Positively, I mean Kevin Peoples. We knew Kevin Peoples was going to be damn good, but he has Braden Swinson, Savion Jones playing at a really, really high level right now. So I would say him. I guess negatively, I don't know. I wish the tight ends blocked a little better. Who does that fall on? Nagel. Like yeah, that's probably one of my nitpicks there. I don't really have a problem with anything else. I mean, Frank Wilson has played Caden Durham. Caleb Jackson hasn't developed, I think, the way we wanted him to, but ultimately, I guess Yeah, I don't really know. Negative wise, I don't have a huge problem. I think there's still good coaches here. I just think they whiffed on the portal, and I think they are playing too many young guys. So I think it's hard. Um, where do you think LSU has gone wrong under Kelly and Hankton in recruiting receivers out of high school? That's a loaded question. Um, so they had Jalen Brown from Florida. Kyle Parker's been good. Shelton Sampson has not panned out the way, but again, a Baton Rouge guy who is a high 4-star player, maybe even like 5-star. I think you take Shelton Sampson, just hope you can kind of develop. Kai Prion, similar thing. Fast guy, you hope you can develop, doesn't. Um, who else? Landon Ibieta. Um, we'll see with Billy O. Watkins. I don't know. I can't specifically put my finger on one thing that has gone wrong. I just think they need to do a better job of bringing in higher level talent and developing. So we'll leave it at that. That was from Nola Fan 33, by the way. Shoeless Joe 11. Has anything changed? Oh, Underwood question. Um, Al Smith. How excited are you guys for Gladiator 2? I'm very excited, considering how young I was when the first one came out. It's one of my dad's favorite movies, and I watched it. I've seen it obviously multiple times. Great movie, and so I'm very excited for the second one to come out. It comes out on Friday, right? It's Wednesday, so yeah, very excited. Good, gonna definitely tune in and get my tickets to the movie there. Probably not. I'm not gonna go on Friday or Saturday or Sunday or something like that. First of all, I have games to cover and whatnot. Maybe I'll go back and when I'm in San Antonio for Thanksgiving, I'll make a little trip over there and see it. But I'm very excited. And his second question: what do we need outside of improved O line play for our offense to thrive? I mean that would help if the offensive line played well. Um, I think all of the problems for the offensive line start with, or for the offense start with the offensive line struggles. They can't run block. They can't pass protect right now, especially with Garrett Dellinger out. I just think the offensive line limits anything you can do as a play caller, anything you can do as a quarterback, as a running back. So I start there. So you just take that out, and I think this offense would be perfectly fine. Nussmeier did not turn the ball over, like interception wise. He had a fumble, sure, but he didn't put the ball in harm's way. Brian Kelly said he tried not to, so everybody should be happy with him not throwing an interception that game, and they still lost. The receivers slash running backs had 4 drops. So it is an all around letdown, as I've written multiple times. This offense has just been shockingly bad to this point. Okay, Rustin 97. Will Bryce be the starting quarterback week 1 of 2025? I lean no. I think Nuss comes back at this point. Even though he is still getting he's still a top 5 quarterback in this draft class, and I think he's could go late first round. Like he's that talented. I think a team would bet on him. But I still think he's probably gonna lean coming back more so. So I'll go Nuss starting week 1 and not Bryce. Arthur Tiger. I feel like all the major needs at every level on both sides of the ball will need to be addressed in the portal. Why, with Brian Kelly's recent comments, should we believe they'll be more effective than the last 2 years? Hopefully they have deeper checkbooks. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. Like I said, I don't think there was a emphasis in terms of getting the top guys from the portal the last 2 years. And I think that is, you could argue that that's wrong. I would argue that that's wrong. But I think that there was so much tied into this 2025 class and so much tied into the development of players that they didn't really want to just go grab guys that could or invest a lot of money into guys that would just come in and just start for a year and maybe leave or whatnot. I think they really did want to try out the development aspect. But at this point, I don't want to hear about we're going to just get young guys, develop young guys, all this stuff. Go get players, go pay players, go get the best team you can possibly afford in today's college football era. You have to field the team 1 year at a time. This is not a situation where you'd be like, "Oh, we can look down the line 3 years from now, we're gonna be really good." This needs to be a situation where every single year you field the best team that you can and you figure it out from the talent perspective. That is my opinion of it. Now, I'm not saying to go all in on the portal. You still need to recruit well and you need to develop well. I'm not saying to be Florida State. I'm not saying to be Ole Miss. I'm not saying to be those teams. But you sure as heck need to go get top end players to compete with them from the portal every single year. And they have not done that the last 2 seasons. And that is the most concerning thing to me is that I don't know what Brian Kelly's approach is going to be moving forward with the portal, but they need to go get quality players instead of just adding 10 guys and one of them starting or two of them starting and two of them being any good. Like they need to go get 8 players and 6 or 7 of them need to start. 6 or 7 of them need to compete for starting jobs. You cannot have guys who are buried on the depth chart just as filler at this point. So, the hope for me is that they're going to is that they're going to go into this saying, we have our 2025 class now. We have the class that's going to set us up for the future. Cool. What can we do from an NIL perspective to compete for the guys like a Walter Nolan, to compete for an Evan Stewart, Isaiah Bond, to compete for guys that are going to help us compete for championships this year? Because next year's year 4. And I said this on the reactions pod. I would have been okay with LSU maybe taking a year in 2025 to really try to get this 2025 class integrated and really try to get them going and their feet wet and stuff like that. And maybe take a couple lumps along the way. You're staring at an 8-4 season right now, and that's best case scenario. You 7-5, 6-6 is not out of the realm of possibility, even though I think it's a lower percentage chance. You have lost any of the slack that you had built up from when going 10-3 and 10-3. That is gone. You go 8-4 this year, and next year it becomes anything less than a playoff appearance is a failure, and you should be on the hot seat. Like now the pressure is on for 2025 in a way that I didn't think was going to be the case if they had gone, 10-3 again. Even if they didn't make the playoff, if they went 10-3 for a third straight year, I think you could sell people on Bryce Underwood's coming in, Harlem Bears coming in, DJ Pickett's coming in, everyone, so on and so forth. Next year, I don't think that's as easy to sell. I just think you have to go into next year with an urgency that we need to be in the playoff picture, because if not, that's 4 years of you not being a top 10 team under Brian Kelly. 4 freaking years of you not being a top 10 team if you're not there next year. And I just think that's a hard sell. It's going to be really hard if you don't go get portal players that can help you right away selling, well, we got these freshmen that are really good. These freshmen are awesome, but like those guys aren't winning you 10 games next year. They're not going to get you to 10-2 and in the playoffs next year or hosting a playoff game or 11-1. Like that's the standard you need to be at. You shouldn't be sitting on your couch right now watching the playoff picture unfold and being like, damn, there's like 6 SEC teams that can be in there, and LSU's not one of them. That shouldn't happen again, especially not in year 4. So I think there is a major uptick in urgency, and I think we'll see this year if LSU is even capable of being on the same platform of a Tennessee, an Alabama, Georgia, A&M, Texas, Ole Miss, because they can buy good teams. Can LSU do it? That's what I want to see. That's really what I want to see. Okay, next, Butch Jones, FB. Does Chris Hilton have a future with the team, or is he likely to transfer out? I mean, I don't see why he would transfer out. He's from here. Girlfriend goes here. I mean, he's I didn't finish this question. Arguably the most talented receiver on the roster. I disagree with that. But with injuries and struggles, he seems to be heading towards the transfer. I don't think he transfers. I also don't think he's the most talented receiver on the team in any capacity. I think he's fast and is very, very athletic. That's what he's been every year of his career. And this is why I was hesitant on him coming into the year. Now, I can't look, I was hesitant on Chris Hilton throughout the offseason and throughout the fall of anybody saying, including, we talked about on our board, like people saying he was going to be wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2. I was never there with him, but I cannot take that as like a pat on the back or anything because he's been hurt. So maybe if he was healthy, this offense, which severely lacks top end playmaking, maybe he does hit some home run balls and makes you forget about all the other question marks he has with his hands and his, just fluidity as a receiver, his route running. Like, I think those are all very legit questions, but he is fast. And I wouldn't be surprised in these last 2 games if he's able to make some plays and catch some balls. So I don't think he transfers out. I think he's here. I think he's a Louisiana guy. I think LSU wants him back next year as well. So that's important to remember. Debut 1996. It's a Shea question. Shea is not here. Tiger Rocket 01, bone in or boneless wings and go-to flavor. Bone in wings, and when it comes to flavor, I mean, you could set me up with a lot of different flavors and I'd be happy. I mean, lemon pepper, honey barbecue, whether it's dry, whether it's wet. I think from a wing perspective, I'm a pretty open, like Parmesan. Like, you could throw a lot of stuff at me. And you could throw varying degrees at me, like hot, cold, or hot, mild. I'm honestly, if it is a well done wing, if it's a well done batch of wings, you could throw almost anything at me, and I'm good. Very, very not picky on that in that regard. Bone in is clearly the right answer to me. Boneless to me is, I hate to say it, but it's just, again, it's like eating a chicken nugget at that point. And I haven't ate chicken nuggets since I was like 10. So, bone in. Here's a question for y'all though. What's the best wing place to you in Baton Rouge? Because I feel like I've had a lot of them at this point. Empire Wings I know is good. Pluckers. I went to Pluckers the other day. I was not familiar with your game, Pluckers. I'll say that. I just don't think in Texas it's a very big thing. I've been there twice since I moved here. Got the wings last time. I was not familiar with your game. Okay, 3 more. I'm losing my voice already. Tiger Mike, has Kelly lost the team? I can't say that because I'm not in the locker room and I don't know. But I mean, I guess we'll find out the last 2 games, right? If they lose to Vanderbilt, I think it's a very fair statement to say that he has. But at the same time, this is what Shea talked about in the postgame pod. It's like your culture will be tested at this point. This is why you build that foundation of having a culture and having leaders and having these seniors and relying on upperclassmen, is so that way when you do face adversity, you don't fold. This is the ultimate test of that culture, of that foundation, and we'll see. I'm very excited to see how they look, because if they don't come out and play, I think it's very fair to say, like, he lost the team. But I can't say that right now in good faith. Go Tigers 52-80. Y'all do a great job. So thank you for what y'all do. In your opinion, who comes back with the way everyone talked going into the season? I hope Campbell, Jones, Perk, Nuss want to come back and prove something. Yeah, this has been a popular topic on the Mailbag pod, on really everything. So who comes back? I've said it before. I think they need to have 2 of these 4 come back next year. If they lose all 4 of them, I will be concerned going into next year. And it will talk about pressure on the portal. If you lose Will Campbell, Emory Jones, Harold Perkins, and Garrett Nussmeier, I understand you have Bryce Underwood coming in, so maybe not quarterback, but like, you are going to have to make some major, major splashes in the portal just to get to where you need to from a talent perspective. So my hope is they get 2 of these 4 back. I think Campbell's gone. Campbell is gone. I also included Mason Taylor in this, actually. So actually take out Will Campbell, because I do think Will Campbell's gone no matter what. Mason Taylor to me is in this mix. And I'm not sure where he's leaning, but between Mason Taylor, Emory Jones, Harold Perkins, and Garrett Nussmeier, I think they need to get 2 of those players back for me to feel good going into next year. If it's only Nuss, I won't feel great. Like, you lose 4 of your starting linemen, I won't feel great. If it's just Nuss and Perk, okay, you could sell me on that. You could sell me on the defense, figuring it out. If it's Nuss and Jones, cool. You just have to replace one tackle. Like if it's Nuss and Taylor, cool. You have um, one key weapon and, one of the best, if not the best tight end in the country next year. So I think you just need to have two. And if it's, let's say Jones and Taylor, like I feel good too. So either way, I think you have two out of the four aforementioned names uh come back. That would be huge. He also asked, is it too early to bump Sloan to OC? In hindsight, should they have gone out and got somebody with experience? How involved has Hank been with the play calling? So I'm assuming he means bump Sloan from OC. So, bump him out of that position. I do think it is too early. 1 year. I think you definitely have to at least give him 2 years. Hell, Matt House got 2 years. No. Sloan is going to get an opportunity next year at OC. I don't know how much Hankton's been involved. I know Kelly's been involved. I'm sure all of the offensive coaches are involved in the scheme and everything that they do in the playbook, but yeah, I'm not sure exactly how specific it is. All right, last one, MB21. Since our football team has no pulse, sorry, man, I'm losing my voice. Pick the team with the best regular season winning percentage: LSU women's basketball, LSU men's basketball, LSU baseball. So I don't have LSU men's basketball is not going to have the best winning percentage in the regular season of this group. That's not the case. So it becomes women's basketball and baseball, and I just think from a number standpoint, women's basketball will clearly have the best regular season winning percentage because they should go something like, I don't know, 28-4 or something like that, like 29-3. Like they're not going to lose many games. They don't play anybody in the non-conference. It could play NC State, so maybe there's one, but like they play South Carolina once, they play Texas once, I believe. So yeah, something like that, like 28-4. I don't even remember how many games they play exactly, but I think it may be 31 actually. So 27-4, something like that. Yeah, I just think that's by far the best percentage wise record. LSU baseball last year went 43-24. Even championship year, go back 54-17. That's not 27-4. Like that's percentage wise, it'll be women's basketball. Men's basketball, if we just say something like 19-11, that'd be a really good year. So that's kind of where I'm at with those three. And that's it. There's the Mailbag Pod. Done in less than an hour. I hope y'all enjoyed me talking for 43 minutes. I'm gonna go drink some water. And yeah, hope everybody enjoyed it. Leave us a like, comment, share, subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to everybody sending questions. Subscribe to the message to the Bengal Tiger On3. And Shay is going to be replying to all of your recruiting questions. He told me to let y'all know that he will be on there and replying to everything. So direct all your recruiting questions to him, and he will be back. Also, he told me to tell y'all him and Billy will be doing a recruiting pod, I believe on Thursday. So stay tuned for that as well. So yeah, thank y'all for joining, and we'll talk to y'all later.